When I got all the way to being an artist, which, you know, I was in my late 30s, nearly 40, when I had this idea that I should be an artist. But then in my art making, with this limited palette I always used, I was constantly questioned, how can you be from South Florida? How can you live in South Florida and have so little color in your work? And at some point I realized that I had been imprinted, that my palette was very specifically Northeast Atlantic Ocean forest colors, which is still in my heart. But in this other conversation that I'm interested in is how to get people who aren't looking at the subjects I'm passionate about to actually look, led me to discover that sometimes I was really inspired when I faced what I thought I didn't like. So the first thing that happened was quite a few years ago. I had been to too many shows downtown, or, you know, during Art Basel or whatever, where they had installation art, but it didn't really inspire me. I didn't know why it existed. I really had a pretty low opinion of installation art. But then I got it into my head that if I found out all about Japanese gardens, that I would understand the value of installation art. And absolutely I did. In fact, I got so inspired by what the attributes of a Japanese garden are and why they would be there and what their purpose is and how you are to be transformed in how you feel, how important your body is to the space, that never premeditatedly thinking, oh, now I will make installation art. I just made installation art. The next thing that happened had to do with the color is I was actually invited into a show where they said, we want you to be inspired by some Salvador Dali prints, but create your own work. And I actually refused this gallery 3 times. Said, first of all, I'm not even that interested in Salvador Dali or surrealism, and just leave me alone. And at some point, again, my, let's say, animosity towards the surrealism and Salvador Dali got so intense, I kind of like something went off in my head and I said, you feel awfully strongly about this, Gretchen, maybe you should do something. And so I agreed to participate in that show, which is the first in the series that are behind you, which has the eviscerated cat. He had a flayed woman's skin hanging on a similar piece. And in making that piece, I realized that I was making something that I would have called pretty picture art before, like something that has lovely colors, has an attraction to it, different from what I had been doing. And so it led to that series of 5 pieces that are all about the Anthropocene, and they're way out of my normal as far as how decorative, how pretty, how steeped in Salvador Dali's compositions they are, except for one just absolutely abandoned Salvador Dali. But I feel like they have effectively gotten people to look at subjects who would not look at them because of, you know, they're attractive enough. I'm also playing with another thing. I've been through many phases with this. I was trying to make only ephemeral art, but then I never had any art to show anybody. Like, it's gone now. Pertinent to a conversation you and I had before we started talking here, I went through a complete phase of edible art where I wanted people to just eat it. I had people eat me, like, you know, my face, and like I was vomiting my own art out, and my brains were made out of chocolate-covered coffee beans. And what happened with that was, again, I had nothing to show for it except a photograph here and there. But the other thing was the culinary world tried to suck me in. And here I already had an issue of just what was my role in the art world, but I'm already trying to be sucked into the culinary world. And I thought, I don't know where is my world, but it's not the culinary world. And so the next thing I did was decide that I'm going to look in my studio, and you know how artists accumulate stuff. I had stuff. And so I thought, what if I start using some of the stuff I have, like I have to use it. And that's why they're extremely mixed media too. Some of the materials were because a dear friend had died and I got maybe some materials from his studio. Another friend may have moved away. Some were special gifts. One was a gift bought from an antique store. Here's some really old, cool blue pencils that I've not seen anything like those. The paper had been owned by my father, and I believe is something like 60-year-old paper or more. I don't really know. It certainly existed in his possession before my birth. And so I'm working on this fragile paper. I think grids are a very powerful visual, and creating these surrealism pictures of the environment on there. So that's the color, and so you can see over here the earth also talk about color. In contrast, the one piece that I can't see from where I'm sitting is the one extinction of color.